My greatest fear, like right along with dying, is speaking in public. Those are the exact words that I used to open a breakout session at the, I think it was 2012 National Urban Education Conference. It was hosted by Central State University, and it was at the end of the day, and I was in a kind of a small breakout room, maybe 60 chairs, and the room was packed. I'm thinking 80 plus people. It's probably because some of the students were getting credit for being there. So I explained then, I went on to explain that this was an exact quote from one of my students. And the student had told me that about 15 minutes before delivering a business pitch at this environmental entrepreneur conference with a $10,000 prize. It was up at Ohio State. In any case, then I said, okay, without looking at your program, who could tell me the topic of today's seminar? Who remembers my opening line? And of course, everybody did. And I said, how'd I do? And they were like, oh yeah, we got it. My premise, or let's rewind. Let's rewind real quick. Pretend I was just starting that session again, or starting this video, and I step up to the camera. Hey, how are you guys doing today? Or if I was in person, it's a good conference. The room's a little tight, but I think we'll do all right. So my name's Brian Raison. I'm at Ohio State. I want to talk a little bit about public speaking, opening lines. Oh, I'm sorry, I fell asleep standing up. The how are you doing? You don't care, or maybe you do care how they're doing, but you're not going to take time to engage with them. You're giving a speech, you're giving a lecture, you're having a talk. So that's a total throwaway. So here's my premise. Whether you talk a lot or teach in groups, online, or only occasionally, if you can know for certain what your first words are going to be, then you can have an opening that is immediately meaningful. It connects and it gets people tied into what you're saying or what you're getting ready to talk about. So today, let's jump in. Let's talk about 8 opening lines that you might use. Right now, as we're switching a lot of our instruction to online, the campus is pretty empty. That makes me sad. I'm actually at a friend's campus. I'm not at Ohio State right now, but I wanted to be here outside, kind of in the field, because I really care about our students. I'm thinking about them a lot. So let's jump in and talk about some of the things that you can do really quickly. I'm just going to fly through these, give you the examples, and then give you a homework assignment to try them out. All right, number 1, start with a startling statistic or some surprise fact of some sort. So throw something out. For example, every year 1.5 million people declare bankruptcy. That's 4,000 a day. Did you know Extension offers financial literacy programs? So then you're opening a possibility for a conversation. Or one that I used to do some work with college prep each fall. Imagine starting a lecture like this. Maybe it's with high school seniors or teachers or educators. 1.9 million students head off to college, but according to the ACT board, a quarter will not return for their sophomore year, 1 in 4. But Extension's 4-H has been called the best college prep program in the nation. What might we do to better prepare our youths? So that bringing them in with the fact. Good stuff. Okay, number 2, try a quotation. Quote a current day expert or a historical figure, and then follow it up. What do you think he or she meant by saying this? Or ask, is this still relevant today? But always remember to be cautious with this one. What did your grandmother tell you? Don't talk about religion or politics or the opposite sex in polite company. Here's an example. I love Mark Twain. Never put off till tomorrow what you can do the day after tomorrow. Now, this isn't good for an online class as you're asking students to start engaging that way, but you get the point. So if we were in person, or if we were doing a synchronous online, I would still pause here and say, hey, who's got a favorite quote? What audience might you use that with? And so again, it's that engagement piece. All right, thinking analogy. So one of the things that I like to do sometimes is say, you don't have to raise your hands, because that kind of gives people that, oh, okay, thank goodness, they're not going to, some people don't like that. And then you throw out the question. So here's one I've used. I was doing a talk on eating, or it might have been a local food seminar. I said, in your mind, imagine where you buy the majority of your food. What does it look like? Is it filled with healthy local food, or just have golden arches out front? How can we help our local health departments promote healthy eating? And with this one, I threw a couple of slides in there. I said, does it look like this? And, the big box store, does it look like this, the local farmer's market? Remember, I mentioned in my top 10 tips for online engagement, whatever it was, my other video, or one of the other ones, use your pictures that you take when you're out and when you're at conferences and things. It really brings your students in, particularly with the online. Okay, number 4, ask a rhetorical question or a challenging question. Again, that word imagine or think about or reflect on, and getting that imagery going in their brain can really help fire things up. So again, I won't ask you to raise your hand. I did this one with our agriculture operations group up in Worcester a couple of months ago. I said, how many of you know the feeling you get in the pit of your stomach when you see that state highway patrol flashing lights in your rear view mirror? But then you follow it up. This is the magic part. Could that be the same feeling that some of our students get when they're called upon in class? And it works with online too, if it's synchronous class. Asking them, calling them out from that box if you're using the Zoom function, and saying, hey, Joe, what do you think? Or whatever that might be. Okay, number 5, a quiz or do an opening survey. This is more involved, so I caution you to practice this. But so here we go. Who remembers the Jetsons? This may not work with your students. That futuristic space family. You remember the dad's name? And then give a little pause. And how about his wife, Jane, his wife and daughter, Judy? Oh, maybe you can sing it, huh? Okay, so we have this in our minds. Now the follow-up question. Who can name 5 of the 9 justices on the U.S. Supreme Court? Ouch. It's a little harsh, Raison. But then be with your audience. Tell them, don't feel bad. The point is sometimes really important things that affect our lives aren't in the forefront of our minds. So let's talk about the environment or food security, whatever the topic is of your talk, and determine what we do need to know to make a positive impact. So you see how you bring them in, you have some fun, but then you get serious really quickly. It can be very engaging. Number 6, a personal story. Tell a short story. Now, not a joke or somebody else's story. Keep it brief. Unrelated stories might be funny, but they don't really engage. So here's an example. Social justice, homelessness, personal experience. While leaving the stadium after a ball game last week, a homeless person, somebody I think was homeless, asked me for money. Has this ever happened to you? That question there, has this ever happened to you? It draws them in. And then the follow-up. What can we do to reduce homelessness in our community? What action can we take? So you're starting that conversation germane to whatever your subject is. You get the point. Number 7, note the occasion. Provide a reference. So if there was you saw something on the news or saw an article in the Wall Street Journal, bringing that in is always positive. Makes a nice tie to the current event or whatever it may be. Here's one that I had pulled from a 4-H event. You initiate the students with the central thesis that they're going to be studying or talking about, and then challenge them with that related question or theme. 1902, A.B. Graham started the first Boys and Girls Club that later became 4-H. And in the 1930s, he advocated for urban and racially integrated clubs. It was an amazing, bold stance for him to take. His actions set the stage for inclusion. Who was this guy? And why is his work so significant today? And imagine a conversation you could have with young people who are at a 4-H club with something like that as an intro. Okay, one more. Bring a prop. Catch the audience's attention quickly. So I had an idea once of a record album and an 8-track, a cassette, and a CD and talking about how music has changed so markedly over the years. You know, Elvis has entered the digital age. Have you? And at my TED Talk, it was on local foods about 5 years ago, and I brought a mango. And so I asked the audience, can anybody identify this? And people knew immediately, oh, it's a mango. I'm like, well, what does a mango have to do with local food? And then I went on with the talk, but it was an engaging kind of an introduction, so that can work. Okay, let's wrap up. Take a moment when we wrap up, or as we wrap up, take a minute, think about that little voice inside your head. If you're like most people, about half of you are going, okay, I'm thinking about that, and the other half are going, I don't have any little voices in my head. All right. So here, what's the point? Your opening statement is going to set off a flurry of little voices in people's heads across the room or across the airwaves on the internet. So ask yourself, do you want those voices to smile and say, hey, this sounds interesting. I want to engage in this conversation. I want to be part of this class, online, asynchronously even, because you can do it via video, as I'm doing right now. Or do you want those little voices to be saying, I'm just going to check out. I'm going to sit here in my little corner of my Zoom Brady Bunch screen while the professor rambles on and try not to get called on. It's your choice. All right, if this were a lecture, I'd say end the video and then get feedback. Engage your students immediately. So here would be an assignment. Pick a favorite opening line, one of those 8, and then practice it this week. It doesn't have to be with a group. Do it one-on-one, but give it a try. And so there's your challenge. And then maybe they write a reflection about it, just a paragraph, and they submit that, again, through your online course management system. So that's it. Hope that was interesting and helpful. I've got a couple other videos that I'm working on with online courses, and so thanks so much. Have a great day.